Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. This is Khalid Saleh. I'm the president and co-founder of Invest. We are a leading conversion optimization software provider. Joining me today is Ayat Shikari, my partner and co-founder.
Hello everyone, glad to have you here.
So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. Of course, today we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic especially for online retailers, for e-tailers. We're going to be focused on product page optimization. However, we're going to take a different approach to product page optimization than what we usually do with our webinars. We're always looking for ways to make these webinars informative and interesting to our audience. And I think the attendance, we're breaking over 300, 400 attendees at each one of these webinars. My goal today is we're actually going to show you how we choose a page. Why would we pick product pages to optimize as opposed to looking at the main home page, the category pages, the cart page, and maybe even the checkout process within an e-commerce website. But we'll get into a lot more details about that as we go through the webinar. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. Of course, you can always send us questions through the GoToWebinar chat window or through the questions window. The question, and I see it's already coming up, the question always comes up whether we're going to post the webinar. The webinar recording will be available on our website. The guys over here, the team tries to put it up usually within 24 hours unless they get a little busy. Yeah, I see them saying 24 hours, and then we'll have this webinar posted on our website. In terms of the slides, we actually do not make those slides available, but you will have the webinar recording. With that, let's get started. So there are going to be two portions to the webinar. The first portion I'm going to cover. The second portion Ayat is going to take over, and they're sort of complementary to each other. You can't really do one without the other. The first portion that I'm going to be talking about is choosing the starting point. So if you hear me speak at conferences, if you hear me at the webinars, I always emphasize the importance of picking the right starting point for any conversion optimization project. Now, why is that? And why do I always emphasize that? The reason for that, if you think about the time, effort, the budget, the resource commitment a conversion optimization project requires, it really can be overwhelming. So here you get the buy-in from the stakeholders. Everybody is excited about conversion optimization. They tell you, go ahead, let's get started. Or if you're an owner or a VP of marketing, you finally allocate the resources to start the conversion optimization project. And you don't pay close attention to where the optimization project should start. So, usually people take a very simplistic approach to a very sophisticated, complex problem. And they choose, well, let's pick the pages with the highest exit rate. Maybe we'll pick the cart page. Maybe we should look at the main home page. Probably the main home page is one of the areas that I hear about the most because it's sort of like an obvious starting point. But not so. What happens is you pick the page, you didn't do enough analysis on it, you come up with it, you have the team looking at the page, analyzing the page, coming up with new designs, you pick the testing software, and you get started with testing, and either testing does not succeed or succeeds, but you're really not seeing an uptick in your revenue. And ultimately, that is the measuring stick for conversion optimization. If I don't see an increase in my dollars, in my online revenue, I did not benefit from the program. And at the same time, by the way, that's the beauty of conversion optimization. The goal from conversion optimization is for us to see an increase in our bottom line. And that's when you discover the painful lesson that choosing the wrong starting point can be an excruciating lesson. And it really might cause many companies to cancel their conversion optimization programs. So how do you determine what page you should be working on? Really, the answer to that is going to be in your analytics package. Analytics provides a tremendous amount of information, a wealth of information is just there for you to analyze, to look at. The challenge that many companies run into is they look at analytics and they cannot find actionable insights from their analytics data. So what I'm going to do today, we're actually going to take a look at our Pi software. Pi integrates with many of the analytics packages out there. Really, the main focus, though, is Google Analytics. Pulls that data, has a business rule engine that runs against it. And yes, you don't have access to Pi, but at least you can look at some of the numbers that we pull in Pi, and you can look at some of the analysis that I'll do, and you can do some of that manually to start at least thinking. And we're merely in this presentation just scratching the surface of using analytics data to determine what we should be focused on. Now, I need to make two distinctions over here in the way traditional online marketing companies look at analytics packages, companies such as SEO companies, such as PPC companies, and how CRO, conversion rate optimization companies, those who are expert in conversion optimization, how they look at analytics. SEO, PPC companies, they're focused on, okay, what are the top landing pages? What are the keywords that we're ranking for? What's our ranking in the SERPs and the search engine positions? From a CRO perspective, yes, some of that information is important for us and we cannot ignore it. However, what the analytics provide us on top of that is the actual navigational paths that visitors take within a website, and that's an area that you want to look at, and we want to segment and dice the data in so many different ways so we can really look for insights that we can use, those insights, marketing insights, and we can use them to make changes to our website. But not only make changes to our website, we must make changes, monitor the bottom line impact. Did my revenue go up or down? Did my conversion increase or decrease? Are my visitors engaged or not so engaged? We want to look at all these metrics, main KPIs for the website, and measure really the success or the lack thereof of any change we make on our website. So, one of the things that we're looking at over here for this particular website, and you see now we're looking at the high level information for that website. We start looking at least at a minimum level the behavior of repeat visitors versus new visitors. Now, repeat visitors are visitors who came to your website previously, hopefully placed an order previously, so they know at least they've seen the website prior to this visit. For this website, you see that they have about 77,000 repeat visitors and about 393,000 new visitors. So the majority of the website visits are coming, the majority of them are coming from their new visitors. And that's very typical, by the way. I think in the last 7 or 8 years, I probably have seen very few websites that actually break this rule. I'm trying to remember, and there's a few names that come to my mind, but the majority of websites, you'll see that anywhere between, I would say, 15 to 35% of their traffic is repeat visitors. So that is normal. Now, what's interesting is when you see the visits. So repeat visitors at 77,000, they are visiting about 126,000 visits. So on average, repeat visitors coming to the site twice, it's almost like a ratio of 1.8 visits for every repeat visitor. Now, what's interesting, if you look at the new visitors, majority of those visitors are coming to the website about one time. So that's also a normal action. As a matter of fact, if I look at repeat visitors, I would be expecting to see that the repeat visitor would come to the website more than a couple of times. However, this also will depend on the type of website. Now, for this particular website, this actually makes sense because it's not a purchase that I'm making every month. It's a purchase that I would make anywhere probably, I would say on average about 10 to 18 months. The bounce rate, this is another metric that we want to look at, the bounce rate for repeat visitors versus new visitors. The bounce rate for repeat visitors is a 43%, 27. The bounce rate for new visitors is a 43%, 63. Now, this is very interesting. Typically, and very unusual, by the way. Typically, what we want to see is that the bounce rate for new visitors is typical for it to be tremendously higher than the bounce rate for repeat visitors. Usually we see the bounce rate for new visitors at twice, if not even 3 times what we see for repeat visitors. A repeat visitor already knows your website. A repeat visitor already interacted with your website. So usually you don't see such high bounce rate for those repeat visitors. For those of you, I see some questions over here that are asking me, what is a bounce rate? A bounce rate is somebody who came into the website from an external source. They came from Google, they came from search, they came from email, from social. They land on a particular page on your website and they leave right away. So it's a single page visit to the website. And why do visitors bounce off? Probably there are many reasons, and repeat visitors will have different reasons than new visitors. It is typical, for example, if a new visitor is bouncing off, and it depends on what page actually they landed on. If they land on the main homepage, there are some issues around trust and confidence. Can I do business with you? Can I trust you? If they're landing on a product page, completely different set of reasons. Is this the right product, the right price? So people ask different questions. Now, for repeat visitors, they already know the website, so they probably trust the website. So high bounce rate really would indicate other set of factors that we need to evaluate. But as you see what I'm doing right now, just starting to link the analytics data that we see with the conversion framework, the process of evaluating a website. What area should I be focused on? The exit rate, what we see over here, repeat visitors have a 16.5% exit rate. The new visitors have a 20% exit rate. Still, the data is very close. And again, this is sort of interesting because typically we see that repeat visitors have tremendously different behavior than new visitors on most websites. Pages per visit, again, 5.78 for repeat visitors versus 5.02 for new visitors. Close enough behavior, yeah. Repeat visitors are performing better, but they're not performing amazingly better, if I would use that term. Now, here's where things get a lot more interesting. Time on site for repeat visitors. The repeat visitors are spending 4 minutes and 33 seconds. They are more engaged. Although they view less pages, they are more engaged with the website. Put that in one spot. On the other hand, look at new visitors. On average, they spend 2 minutes, about 50% of what repeat visitors do. So there's a huge difference over here, and we want to kind of start thinking about that. This also translates into something else, another important metric. Look at the conversion rates, the conversion rate for repeat visitors versus the conversion rate for new visitors. New visitors are converting at 9.5%. Repeat visitors are converting at 9.5%. New visitors are converting at 1.1% for an overall conversion rate of 2.11. What does that tell you? I want to have more of those repeat visitors. They are converting at about 900% more than my new visitors. Of course, you need to think about this. This is a marketing insight. How can we actually bring somebody back to the website because the conversion rate is just tremendously better? And look at the average order value. Not only are we able to convert them at a much higher rate, we're getting those repeat visitors to spend about twice as much. So our repeat visitors are worth just, they're a gold mine, and they are the type of visitors that we want to focus on. The question now becomes, how can we actually get those repeat visitors to come to the website? When also at the same time we look at new visitors, and why aren't they converting at such a low rate compared to the rate for the repeat visitors? There's all these questions that we need to be able to answer. Now, the first step of the analysis that we did over here with the visitor behavior was taking a look at the overall visitor behavior for the website. Now let's start looking at some more data, and our goal over here is to really look at areas where the visitors are dropping off that conversion funnel. This website gets about 471,000 visitors, at least they got that for the last 30 days. 471,000 overall visitors, overall conversions about 19,000. So it's a nice number of conversions. Not we can definitely do tremendously better than that with a 2% conversion rate. Many times people ask me, when do you stop conversion optimization? And I answer them in a couple of ways. When do you ever stop SEO, or when do you ever stop PPC? Really, the only time you should stop these activities if you cannot see or justify the ROI. As long as you are seeing money, as long as you're able to justify the ROI, as long as it makes sense, you continue. We've had some customers that have been working with us since 2009, so we're going on 3 years working together. Some customers, of course, would start conversion optimization, do it for a few months, and then they would stop it. We don't like this discontinuity in the program, but at the same time, business is priority driven. So that's a whole other discussion that we can cover some other time. What's interesting to me, and let's take a look at this. The overall visitors for the website are at 471,000. The category pages get about 151,000 of those visitors. And look at this, the product pages get 316,000. Now, you need to look at these numbers and analyze them further, as opposed to just throwing the numbers and saying, okay, well, great. You notice that a good chunk of the visitors, based on this data, if the data is accurate, that the product pages get a tremendous amount of visitors without actually going through the category pages, or so that's something that you want to think about. And this is actually, when we looked at the data more carefully, this made perfect sense because the company had such good SEO team that many of their product pages were ranking for terms, so they were driving tremendous amount of traffic for their product page to their product pages. Now, what's interesting to me is you see over here the cart page gets about 30,000, and this is a metric that we're going to look at between the transition between product pages to cart page, the transition within the checkout process as well. Now, the third step that we want to evaluate is our key website ratios, and this is probably a screen in pie that most of our customers love to spend time on every month, because really this gets them closer to what page we should be working on. So let's take a look at some of those metrics. The homepage exit rate for this particular customer is at 18%. The target that we allow for is about 30%, and exit rate, of course, is, we defined what a bounce rate is. A bounce rate is somebody coming in and that visitor viewing a single page and leaving. So they come from Google, they land on your main homepage, and they leave. Now, an exit rate is actually a more comprehensive definition. It's a visitor that left the website, whether they came from an external source and this was the first stop on your website, or they might have navigated to multiple pages, then made it to the main homepage and then left. And of course, you have an exit rate for the site for each of the pages on the website. Category pages bounce rates. The category pages bounce rate is at 22%. The target for us is 20%. Category pages exit rate is at 7.74%. The target is at 10%. And by the way, lots of times when we do the analytics assessment, and it's one of those things that we want to do for every time, many companies come to us and they say, we want to do business with you. And before you do that, you want to look at the analytics just to really make sure that you can actually help and provide value. So lots of times when I look at the analytics, and we have an analytics team that looks at the data, lots of times without the website being optimized or anything touched on the website, we see that the category pages exit rate is usually anywhere between 5 to 7%. When it starts going upwards of 15%, we start getting a little worried. The other metric that is very important that many analytics packages do not report this, but you can figure out a way to do it, is the pre-product page abandonment rate. Pre-product page abandonment rate. What does that mean? I have 100 visitors that landed on my website. What is the percentage of those visitors that actually make their way all the way to the product pages? If a visitor does not make his way or her way to the product pages, I have no chance of converting that visitor. At least on most websites, because the real selling, the actual, okay, here is the product, here is the price, are you ready to click on that, add to cart, that happens on the product pages. So for this particular website that we're looking at, the pre-product page abandonment rate is 51%, 51.51. So about 51, if they have 100 visitors, we know that 51 of them would leave the website without ever seeing a product page. No chance whatsoever of converting those visitors. The product page bounce rate, another important metric. Product pages bounce rate is at 76%. Huge red flag just right there. The target typically for the product pages is 30%, as you see over here. So if I have 100 visitors coming from Google and they land on the product pages, we lose 76% of those visitors right off the bat, without the visitor doing any, without the site having any fighting chance. We're losing about 76 people. We're left with 24 people, and you can see how there's a huge problem with the product pages. The product page exit rate, another interesting metric, is at 42%. 42% exit rate, very high. Usually we like to see the product page's exit rate at 20%. So we're losing a lot more of those visitors than what we like to see. Another metric that we want to spend some time looking at is the product page effectiveness, and this is a rate that we introduced. I introduced back in 2009 that helps us really measure the persuasiveness of product pages. If I have 100 visitors, and let me kind of do it in simple terms, if I have 100 visitors who landed on my product pages, they navigated, they got to my product pages, I have them there, what is the percentage of visitors that actually clicks on the add to cart button? Is it 5%? Is it 2%? For this particular website, the product page effectiveness rate is at 10%. Great. However, the actual target is 25%. I want to see 25% of my product page visitors click on that add to cart. Of course, and this is a whole other discussion, the product page effectiveness rate relates to your average order value. The higher the average order value, the lower your effectiveness rate is. For this particular website with an average order value, we saw that a little earlier, less than $20, we should see an product page effectiveness rate close to the 25%. Cart abandonment is a 66%, higher than what we like to see, and that's very typical, by the way, that we see a cart abandonment rate upwards anywhere between 60 to 75%. Checkout abandonment, this is interesting. So after a visitor goes through the cart and they start the checkout process for this particular website, the checkout abandonment is a 43%. So it's close enough to the target and it's within the normal range. Now, one of the other interesting things that Pi does for us is a monetary value evaluation for the different sections for the website. And we're not going to get into a lot of details around this, but we want to assign a dollar value for each one of those pages that we're considering to work on. For this particular website, we see that the main homepage is assigned a dollar value, lost revenue value of $226,000. Good chunk of money. Definitely would want to take a look at that. Category pages, second level, we're losing $611,000. So definitely category pages have more potential to generate revenue for us compared to main homepage. Now, get to the product pages and you see a whole other number, about 1.8 million, 108 million, 1,849,000. So forget about main homepage, forget about category pages. We want to focus on the product pages, at least if we're looking strictly within the confines of this monetary analysis. However, I cannot emphasize enough that the monetary value is not enough. You need to look at both these metrics, the key website ratios, and you want to look at also the monetary value assignment. Cart page, you look at this, and the cart page we're losing about 107,000. This is sort of interesting because 107,000, compare that to an abandonment rate of 66%. So there's something there that's, while this is telling us really you should focus on the cart page, the monetary value assignment, and Pi uses 16 different algorithms to determine all these different metrics. But at least this would make me question working on the cart page right from the get-go. Another area that I want to look at is the checkout, and over here, according to this, the checkout loss value is about $195,000. That tells me really, if I want to start, I would start with the product pages, go to the category pages, go to the main home page, look at the checkout process and the cart page. Does that mean that we know exactly? The conversion roadmap for this particular website? No, that is definitely not the case. Every month you need to do this analysis. As you fix a particular area on the website, you fix the product pages and you think you're done, you'll discover that, well, you know what, now we fixed the problem with the product pages, now we have a lot more visitors getting to the cart page, now we have more problems on the cart page. So this is very dynamic. Now, until now, what we've looked at is these general metrics for the website, and rarely they are pinpointing to the product pages. The last step is to pull the data for the product pages and actually do further analysis to validate this assumption that we are making. Okay, so now we are looking at the last step, which is the selected page, and over here I pulled the data for the product pages. Pi is giving me some analysis over here. Let's take a look at some of those. You see, and this is sort of interesting that we mentioned that we talked about the product pages and the number of visitors that they get actually as entrances from an external source. Really nice, about 140,000 visitors coming to those product pages right off the bat. Job well done for the SEO team. By the way, this also presents certain number of challenges for the conversion optimization team, because if you have visitors landing on the product pages, it's a lot different than visitors landing on category pages. They really the conversion framework factors that you want to consider are a lot different between the two. Let's take a look at this. The exits an exit, of course, includes all visitors. They're actually very high. Overall visitors, by the way, for the product pages, and then we'll come back to the exits. Overall visitors about 245,000, and as you see over here, the exits are 106,000. Repeat visitors, their exits high, but not very high. So we're concerned about the level of exits. Let's look at the bounce rate. We had pinpointed that the bounce rate was 76%. Now we break down the bounce rate between repeat and new visitors. and we see that the bounce rate is tremendously different between the two. And let's do further. So as we mentioned, new visitors. Sorry, we've had some technical difficulties here for a second. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the bounce rate for new visitors is at 81%. The bounce rate for repeat visitors is 72%. This is, by the way, very unusual to have such high bounce rates. Overall, like we saw on the previous screen, 76% bounce rate for the product pages, very high, and an area of concern. Now, if you think about this, repeat visitors already know the websites, and if they're bouncing off at such high percentage, that tells me that there's some issues around fears, uncertainties, and doubts. There's some pricing issues. There's some assurances issues. There's some incentive issues. Those are all conversion optimization, conversion framework elements that should be evaluated for repeat visitors. If I see that new visitors are bouncing off at 81%, completely set of problems. This pinpoints to trust and confidence factors. Also, since we're looking at product pages, there are some pricing issues that we want to think about and consider. The exit rate for repeat visitors is 21%. For new visitors, 56%. Very, very high, an area of concern. So we want to look at that. This is probably also pinpoints to really convincing the visitor that we have the right price, the right product. We are the right place to do business with. Time on site for new visitors, they're spending about 41 seconds. For repeat visitors, and this is time on site for these pages, a minute 43. So on average, repeat visitors is spending more time viewing product pages. New visitors is spending a lot less time. The page views, and this is sort of interesting, the page views on average, a new visitor is viewing about let me just do the math quickly over here, about 1.6, 1.7 products versus if we look at new repeat visitors, they're viewing close to 4 products per visit. So different behavior and different patterns that we are seeing. This is all really pinpoints that to some areas on the product pages that we wanna consider when we are doing our analysis. Let me turn it to Ayat from here.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Khalid. So as you know, InVesp has what we call the conversion framework. And the conversion framework is made up of a number of different principles. And below every single principle, there are a number of different elements that we evaluate. So as you can see here on the screen, we have trust, personas, buying stage, FUDs, complexity, incentives, engagement. Those are all what we call the conversion framework principles, and each one of those has a number of different elements below them. So, for example, here under trust and confidence, we find that there are 36 different elements that we can evaluate. Each element has a number of different problems as well. So, for example, let's see here. I'm going to go back up and I'm going to click on benefits list, for instance. Here you'll find that there are a number of different problems. Each of these problems are going to be evaluated on the page. So for instance, for this particular page, what we did was we evaluated 2 different elements or different problems under benefits list. So again, that gives you kind of an idea of the analysis and the different principles that we actually follow.
Of course, what I did not mention is, so what we did is we took the conversion framework and we implemented that in our Pi software. So what you're looking at is the Panorama Module. The Panorama Module allows us to have a structured approach to evaluate a page, to really determine what changes should be made on that particular page. Of course, you don't have to have the software to do this. This is something that you can do. Our book is available, so we have to plug in the book over here. But you can read the book. There's plenty of literature about conversion optimization, and you can derive from it what principles that what are the things that you should be looking at in a particular page. The beauty of Panorama truly allows us to, instead of having that information in different silos, it's actually collected in software in the largest data bank of conversion optimization test plans. So we can tell that this particular recommendation, this particular change, this particular best practice worked for this type of website. It did not work for 7 other websites. So that's kind of the beauty of Panorama. However, it's not something that you have to do as well. Now, I see. By the way, some questions. People are asking me if the analytics that we looked at are for this particular website. No, they are not. We cannot do that. So they're two different things. We were just doing evaluation over here in Panorama, but we're looking at also a product page for this particular website. The analytics was from a different website.
But what's important to understand is, of course, when you're looking at these different elements and when you're doing this Panorama evaluation, you are considering the fact that you've already done an analysis through analytics. You have already some test plans that you've deployed on this website, so you have that information as well, and you have the marketing information. What's the market makeup? What's the overall customer behavior? What are some of the personas that you're dealing with on this website? So all of that information is kind of within this software. It's giving you kind of all of that information, and then you come to Panorama and you start kind of considering, okay, well, taking all of that information, how can I apply some of these different principles onto this particular page? So after that kind of overall analysis is done, this is the kind of summary of problems that you'll see. So there are a number of different problems that we're going to kind of go through, and as I go through them, I'll highlight them. I can obviously display all of the different problems. I can hide all of the different problems, and I can display them one at a time. That gives me kind of the flexibility to see what the problem is and which principle it's actually attached to. And here below you can see that there's kind of more information about them. So, for instance, we talked about just overall that there were trust and confidence issues on the site. We talked about that high bounce rate that we see kind of on the repeat and the new visitors. So we want to make sure that we address that. So there are some icons here that do enhance trust, but what we want to do is we want to kind of redesign it, give it kind of a different look and feel, and give the customer the opportunity to see what benefits this company can bring to them. Again, that also adds to the value proposition. There are many kind of ideas and principles that we're covering with this simple idea of company benefits. So, there's two things. One thing is we want to kind of rework the way that they're listed and the wording and so forth, and also kind of, rework the design and the presentation overall of the company benefits. So that's something to consider there. The other issue is we had talked again about, from the customer's perspective when they're coming on the site, what are they seeing? Why are they bouncing right away? Why are they exiting off of the product pages? So what we want to do is we want to follow the Z flow pattern, which again, from the customer's perspective, means that the first thing that is appearing from on there for the customer is excuse me for a second. The first thing that's appearing for the customer is the actual call to action. So you're going to have kind of this switch of the image and the actual call to action, and that's actually following different studies. There's been so many studies about iFlow pattern, and this one particular iFlow is called the Z flow, and it's a flow, typical of a customer when they come on a page. What are they looking for? What's their typical eye movement? We're used to seeing the product image on the left. Doesn't necessarily mean it always works, and considering some of the issues that we found on this particular page, this is something that we'd like to test on this page. Another issue is the actual cross-sells. Now, for this particular issue, there's two things. There's the cross-sells, in terms of that they're a secondary goal and they're in close proximity to the primary goal. So that is always an issue. We want to make sure that the primary goal is the first thing and the one thing that the customers click on this page. If they want to click on this page, they need to understand the action. Currently, if you see on the cross-sells here, it says other styles to choose from. So the issue with this is there's two problems. When you see there's also the fact that when a customer clicks on this, what's the intended action? The customer expects, like a typical e-commerce site, that in general the actual product image is going to change on this product page. But what's happening is they're routed to an entirely different product. It's just a similar product. This is not the same exact product in a different color. So that's misleading from a customer's perspective. So there's two issues. We want to work on the location of the secondary goal, and we want to work on the routing issue. How can we clarify to the customer what action is going to happen if they actually click on one of these images? So that's definitely something that we are keeping in mind. So again, there are two different things that we are, two different problems that we're addressing and two different principles that we're covering. This is a trust issue and this is a FUDS issue, a fears, uncertainty, and doubt issue. The other area is the feature list design. So again, for the feature list, there's two areas that we want to consider. The design overall of the way the features are looking, and the actual placement. So where are they placed on the page, and are they in close proximity to the add to cart? Because again, that's a consideration from the customer perspective. They want to make sure that you know, what a quick kind of understanding of the product, again, because remember, the customers are bouncing. So what can we do to present them with the information that they need to make a decision quickly? And features definitely is something that can add to that. And then the last issue that we looked at was, again, we wanted to add some sort of urgency to the offer to compel customers to actually move forward with the purchase process. So, you know, having something in stock is wonderful. It's a great indication that there is this particular product available. But at the same time, adding some sort of wording that would have, you know, the customer more compelled to make a decision faster is important. So, for instance, a lot of customers you'll find will have, or a lot of e-commerce sites, that you'll find will have, you know, for instance, only 10 remaining, or, you know, 30 in stock, or whatever it is. Again, giving that numerical value so the customer understands that if they don't make that purchase, there's a very big chance that they will not be able to get this item in a timely fashion. So again, you know, having some sort of wording that adds that type of urgency is also important, again, considering the different analysis that we did. So that in all, again, shows you an idea of the different problems that we evaluated. There are more problems on this page. There are more things that we would evaluate. But again, considering what analysis we've already done, these are the problems that we wanted to kind of address at this point in time. You know, and there's a question about kind of, you know, having this linear view versus the tabbed view. Again, from this is something that we've tested with this particular customer, and having that linear listed view of the description and the features and the compatibility is a lot. It has kind of that positive impact for in terms of just the overall conversion. So that's something that we've already tested, and this was a winning design for the customer. So that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't work for all. I mean, sometimes, you know, having that tab design is important, but what we've found consistently is that oftentimes customers don't want to necessarily click on those tabs, and having all the information and all they have to do is scroll is a lot easier for conversion. But again, it depends on the evaluation, it depends on the customers, it depends on what you've already tested on the site and all of that, and that kind of will give you that understanding of what you're going to actually be testing in the next test. So we do that summary overall. We've given kind of the problems. We've done that analysis. And now the next thing that you'll see is we're going to provide the customer with a solution. Like what are they going to see from this particular test? Now, what we're going to provide right now is just a general mock-up where the elements are going to place, what we're thinking overall based on the analysis, the on-page analysis that was done right now. So this is the, you know, the actual solution image. And what you'll find here is, again, what we've done is we've put that limited supply order today. We have, again, to add that overall urgency, we've had something here that just shows the company benefits. Again, shop with confidence, why us? Again, giving the customer the confidence and trust to move forward with the purchase. We went ahead and did kind of this mock-up to show the Z-flow pattern to really follow, you know, just the way that customer looks at a page, and, you know, kind of having that add to cart in a location that would generally impact conversion positively. The features we wanted to add, again, this is a mock-up. This isn't the design that we'll end up with, but it is giving the customer idea that it's in close proximity to the add to cart. It's more, you know, part of just that top section of the page rather than being below the page. And then lastly, in terms of the cross-sells, what we did was we made that action a lot clearer from the customer's perspective, so it's more of like a cross-sell. You may also like, and then they'll understand that if they click on this, they're going to be actually routed to another product page and not stay on this particular page. And we moved it down because we really wanted that information that's going to impact the customer for this particular product to be above any other action that the customer can take. So that is kind of just a general idea of the analysis that goes in on page and the actual way that we come up with the solution for a particular product page. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to answering any other questions or concerns that you may have.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Before we finish, I'd like to remind everybody about our upcoming webinar. It's going to be on June 21st. That is going to be a Thursday. We're going to talk about e-commerce widgets. Everybody uses them, but not everybody knows how to design them well, where to place them, what information you should be presenting in them. We look forward to having you. I hope that you found this webinar helpful and enjoyable. Feel free, of course, to share it. Like I mentioned, it's going to be posted on our website tomorrow. Feel free to share it with your colleagues and friends. We'll talk to you guys soon.